let's get real. Welcome to TBC Today. This podcast features friends in and around the Triad Baptist Church community. Hear encouraging real-life stories from our weekly guests and inspiring insights from our host, Pastor Rob. To learn more about Triad Baptist Church in Kernersville, North Carolina, visit us online at tbcnow.org.
Well, it's a new year and we've got a new episode for you. So we're excited to have one of our TBC members with us who's been here a very long time. We're going to talk about that a little bit in this episode and just talk about his ministry and the things that he's done. We're excited to have Harold Simcox with us. You got saved as a kid. You married your high school sweetheart. You've been married 55 years. Y'all serve in ministry together. So there's a lot of great things that we're going to talk about today. So Pastor Rob, are you ready to get real?
I'm ready to get real.
All right, let's do it.
We're going to start the sands of time here, Harold. So when that gets to the bottom, we have to round it up. So, hey, thanks for coming today. We appreciate it. One of the things I feel like as I was reading through your bio and stuff is just somebody that actually puts to words what happened in the early days and being a charter member of Triad Baptist Church and kind of. We'd like you to just kind of start there with your life, and you can go earlier if you want, but we really like to kind of categorize some of the things you went through and some of the things you faced. You told some incredible stories, so why don't you just go through that, and we'll stop you where we want and ask other questions.
Well, obviously, being a charter member means you're one of the old folks here. You know, that's one of the negatives with it. But we were involved in a Bible study with Dr. David Patterson, the original pastor here.
How old were you?
I was in '84 when we came, so I would have been in my 40s, I guess. I can't do the math real quick, but Patsy and I had always been involved in church, Sunday school, whatever, at different stops. My career took me several stops around the state, and when we landed here, we were looking for a church. We were invited by one of our neighbors to a Bible study, which once we came here to the Bible study, which was at the Patterson Library, they were already in discussions about possibly chartering a church. So that's where we joined. And soon after that, July of '84, went through the chartering process, and Patsy and I and some 45, 47 others, developed the church. And being on the ground floor, plenty of opportunities to serve, building issues, everything's before you, So
you left, you were born in Tennessee, Knoxville.
Correct.
And then you graduated from the university there at Tennessee.
That's correct.
And then you went, Allstate reached out to you and said, hey, we want you to work for us. You said, I'll take it. And they moved you to North Carolina?
That's correct. I worked in Knoxville for about 4.5 years. Got into supervision and management pretty early with them, and then had several management stops, Charlotte, Fayetteville, back to Charlotte, and then up here in '84.
When did you move to North Carolina then? Were you?
76.
76.
Mm-hmm.
And where were you at then, in Kernersville?
I was in Charlotte, my first stop. Took a position as an analyst, had supervisory duties over several states, the upper level adjusters there. Got into management of different operations with Allstate.
Did you see yourself as a young age? Did you see yourself staying with Allstate then? Did you this is a great company?
Oh, it was.
You knew you weren't going to leave?
No, it was a great opportunity. It was a strong company. They really cared for the employees. It was good working conditions. Good benefits and everything. So yeah.
What made you choose Kernersville then when you got moved up this way?
They chose Kernersville for me. I actually came to Greensboro to take over the management of the Greensboro office, the claims operation. I was in claims all the way, never sales. But took that office, and we looked in and around Greensboro, and just to find the housing that we needed, brought us out to Kernersville.
It wasn't the house you're in now, was it?
It was.
It was that. So
We've been there almost 40 years.
Wow. Because I'm thinking 38 years ago when the church was sort of formed, Triad was sort of formed, Kernersville was quite a bit different, wasn't it?
Oh, very much so.
Than what it is today.
We came in our 2-lane country road to our subdivision, which is now a 7-lane bypass.
Yeah. I had told Pastor Al one time, my 4th grade teacher, when I was in 4th grade, she told our class she went to the church in the woods. And that was Triad Baptist Church. It was very young, I guess.
We had that label, when
the church in the woods.
Warehouse in the woods.
Warehouse in the woods was the common
Because there was just
Location
so
for us.
many trees and there wasn't Walmart. And
Right. We cleared just enough room to put that
Wow.
warehouse in the woods there.
Did you cut down the trees?
I had a chainsaw in my hands many times.
How did you get the stumps out of the ground? Who had the tools?
We had a couple of members that had landscaping service or tractors, you know, of decent size, that they come over and pull the stumps out for us. So.
And you had, how many acres you said there was? 6?
6.5, I believe, was
Yeah,
the
that was
first
right.
purchase. And one of the great things there, to show God's blessing on us, was Kmart, not Walmart, but Kmart was across the street. And they paid pretty much per acre what we paid for the 6.5 acres
Wow.
on this side of the street.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So had that come pretty soon after you guys built the church?
We started as the Bible study, and then when we chartered, we went to AMP Properties, which was later Dudley College. That arena is still out on the west side of, east side of Kernersville, but it's changed hands 2 or 3 times. And we went there. We modified several of the buildings, did a lot of cleaning, painting, and everything to establish as a church. And
Was it in the cafeteria? Do you remember?
I don't remember the cafeteria. There was a stage area already there, which was great, you know, to start
So you
out the
just
church.
worked right there.
Right, but all the efforts that we put into there were intended, for the next few years. The property had been for sale for many years, no activity or whatever. We got in there in July, December the 1st, they sold the property and booted us out pretty quickly, you know. And from there, we had to hopscotch around, went to school for a little bit, back to the library, and then ultimately, got the property and built here. So
Was that about 47 people or so you said, or
I
48?
think, I don't remember the exact number, 47, 8, 9.
Something like that were attending church at that time.
That's correct. There's 4 of us still left. Patsy and I, Dennis and Teresa Roberts are the other remaining
Only charter members.
That's correct. Remain today.
Harold and Dennis were the pioneers out there
We were, yeah.
building what we have today, which is
It's incredible.
It's a blessing, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a building process. I mean, we had a lot of hands-on, in the evenings and daytimes once we moved to the facility, first facility here,
Back then, you kind of did it yourself back then.
We
didn't
did.
you? I mean, that's how people did it, didn't they? A lot of times they'd build
yeah.
their own churches.
Well, you would have, I don't know what the percentage was, but a heavy percentage of the church members would be here in the evening, cleaning, sweeping, hanging sheetrock, painting, whatever was needed, to
Yeah.
make the operation
Wow.
work for us.
You
So,
said even your wife did a lot of things. You mentioned
She
in your
did.
thing she was very heavily involved. Tell us a few things that she did.
wow, we only have so many minutes. She was heavily involved in some of the construction aspects. I mean, she's not a construction type person, but she would be here anytime there's a work crew here, helping, handing stuff, hanging sheetrock, whatever was needed. She led the women's ministry in the early days, was involved in that for probably 15, 18 years. She volunteered to clean the church in the early days. That's something she wanted to do. And she did that up until the point where it was just such a large facility, she couldn't handle it anymore. And then we had to hire people to come in. But she
She
did it.
vacuumed the whole place.
She
It was
did.
just that one building at the time with the upstairs.
Where all the old office locations are now, that was part of it, The original structure, we came in with the sanctuary and held just worship services while we were building what is the first wave of the Sunday school classes. And once that was done, she continued to clean and work there as well.
Did y'all put the stained glass in too?
We
Y'all
did
did
not.
that?
No, that
You
was
did not.
added. That
A
was
company
added
came in later.
Right.
They tore out that piece of the wall and then put.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good.
So-
Well, tell us some more. Keep going with your story here. So you build the building, and then what goes on? What happens from there?
Well, the Lord just kept bringing people in that we needed. As we were growing, we needed construction people. They would come. As we needed a plumber would come and join the ranks, or electrician or whatever. So all the trades that we needed to really make this grow was good. At the same time, we're doing a lot of witnessing to the community, a good, strong visitation program. That's in the old days. You go out and knock on doors and stuff, which not
A little hard
big
to do today, but yeah.
it is. But just had a lot of good growth. some recreation, thrown in there on the side that kind of help promote fellowship with the church family.
So you were pretty much at church, what, 5, 6
All the time.
days a week?
Pretty much.
Was it like that growing up for you? Were you at church a lot?
No, not that much. I mean, my dad was leader of our house. He was heavily involved in church, Sunday school director, deacon, a lot of leadership roles, and he saw that we were in church on a regular basis, and that's where I got my introduction to Christ. I went to the same church from the time I was a little pup on up, and got to know
tell us about
Christ.
when you went to camp. When you were about 10,
when
10
I was
years old.
10 years old, Skip Morris, a friend of mine, invited me to camp, and I didn't know what it was, just a fun camp, Get out there, but it turned out to be a Christian camp, Cedar Lake Camp in Livingston, Tennessee, middle of the state. And on the steps of the cabin one morning, about 6:30, he asked me about my relationship with the Lord. And I guess that's the first time I really understood, what coming to Christ meant. And I accepted the Lord as my Savior at that point. And probably is true of a lot of kids, I didn't jump out there and start preaching as a 10-year-old or anything like that. I accepted it. I felt like I was growing some, but it was probably late college before I really made a true commitment to Christ and really started my growth in Christ.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. As far as just like all the things you want to get involved in and commit to, were you like a natural handyman by then, or was that something that's when you learned it?
Not the handyman as such. I always referred to myself as a kind of a utility player for the church. Whenever they needed something done, I was involved in it somewhere. And being an early church, there were plenty of opportunities, and I got several positions of leadership that I was able to obtain. Actually chaired the first committee of the church where we named the church, wrote the Constitution, the bylaws, and everything for the church. Now, when I say wrote, I'm a good Christian stealer, I guess. we got those borrow. It's probably a better term, but still, it's what we did. But we got the Southern Baptist bylaws and chartering aspect from other churches, and then we edited them, to better fit us. But,
Tell us, how did you come up with the name Tri-Baptist? How did y'all come up with that?
Well, we did not want to do anything that labeled us with a street identity. Because you see today where, there's one church by a street name that's located on another street, just didn't make sense. So wanted something kind of neutral, common. But if I remember right, Hazel Cavanaugh, one of our charter members, I think she recommended Triad to us.
Okay.
And so it sounded good to everybody, and we went with it. So.
Yeah.
That is a good name because it's a region then. It's not just a town.
That's right, yeah.
That's a very good, it was very good foresight to really go that broad in your thinking.
And there's some other triad names out there that occasionally there's a little bit of confusion, but
Yeah.
people know us here. It's triad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. Okay, so go on with anything else you'd want to tell us, Key, about the early days that maybe be a nice memory or something?
Well, tell us about Pat. How did you meet Patsy? Because I think that was high school.
Well, we were high school sweethearts, but in rival high schools.
Okay.
And we actually went to the same church together. We had for a couple of years before I kind of bumped into her one day, and we just started talking, and it kind of clicked from there.
Yeah.
She actually called me the first day, and we talked for several hours, and then from then it was on.
Okay.
But we dated, dated for 4.5 years before we married. We were both 19.
Wow.
We married, and then our first child, our son Kevin, was born on our 5th wedding anniversary, and then our daughter 2 years after that.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we lost our son in a car wreck. I know y'all had supported us during that time earlier this year.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that
but
wasn't
our
too
daughter's
long
still here
ago.
present locally.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. What that experience? I mean,
With Kevin?
Yeah, what happened and just kind of how you worked through that.
Well, he was diabetic and had probably a seizure of some kind, and as a result, he was not able to handle the car, and a pretty violent wreck. pretty major injuries, but he hung on for about 2 weeks before he actually passed. And that's a tough time, thinking back on that, and we miss him dearly.
Yeah, and he was out of state.
Out of
too,
state, right? Yeah, Athens, Tennessee, about halfway between Knoxville and Chattanooga. Over there, he'd been over there with his family for probably 10 years or so with work opportunities for him. So, yeah. You was asking about the memories. One of the, I guess, a couple of key memories here when we first bought this property. We had the 6.5 acres, just woods. There was a few old logging trails, rough paths through there. And I can remember walking that several times and just praying for the Lord's presence and blessings on Triad. And I mean, that's just fresh. I mean, I can see me walking that path right now. And I hopefully was asking for my role in there as well. I don't remember the particulars of my request to the Lord, but just the
Just
time
trying to figure
of
out how
prayer.
you could be a part of that and what you could do.
At the time of prayer there. And then when we got to the point the area's cleared, we had our dedication service, the groundbreaking, traditional gold shovels and things. And Patsy, she's had some health issues, still does. She had cancer when she was a 34, 35-year-old, which she recovered from. But she was due to go to the hospital for cancer surgery. And the doctor said, I need you here on Sunday afternoon, whatever. And she says, I can't. I said, what do you mean? He said, we've got a dedication service at the church. I'm going to be there. And she was that committed, and she was here.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We went on to the hospital, I think, later that night, but but that just sticks as a great memory. Her kind of dedication, and she's just been a special lady all my life, and I think I mentioned in the bio. She's a great example of what I think a deacon's wife should be. Because the deacons has so many responsibilities and needs to be above reproach, but the wife does too.
How many years do you think altogether have you served on the deacon board?
Wow.
I know that we rotate here, and so you're not consecutive, but
well, let me just back up on the deacons as a whole. When we first formed the church, there were 2 deacons assigned, Steve King and Willie Cavanaugh. And then shortly after that, we added a 3rd deacon, Steve Swaney. And then not long after that, they wanted to add a 4th deacon. And that's when they approached me. And that's when I was ordained. I was ordained as the first deacon, ordained in Triad, but the 4th deacon to serve here. And served for a couple of years, chaired the deacons for a few years, off and on. So out of 40 years, probably 30-something. I don't know.
You just rotated off. You're probably the longest standing. I'll bet you are the longest serving deacon in our church if I look back through the records, because there's no doubt in my mind, because you have maybe take a year off, then we bring you back in, take a year off, bring you back in.
Well, in the early days too, because of just the need for the deacons, and I don't know whether we didn't have qualified people or whatever, the year of rest did not materialize, So you'd have your 3 years, and then you need another year, and another year, another year. Then
just keep adding up.
A lot of times you didn't have that year off. So
really, you've done a whole host of things, but probably the biggest ministry that I know of you is the Nehemiah's Few. Tell us a little bit about how that started for you, where it started churning in your head, and then how it got to where it is today.
Okay. Well, being in management with Allstate gave me an opportunity to retire early. I looked at the age 55 retirement from my early years, and actually retired at 56. There were some things going on in the company that made sense to stay a little bit longer. So when I was retiring, I wanted to move forward with my life and do something. I didn't want to just quit work and now what? And that's kind of my one key piece of advice to people that are retiring. Don't retire from, but retire to something. And we had a pretty active men's fellowship. Never big numbers, but good, strong fellowship, encouragement with the people. And we were trying to decide what we need to be as a men's fellowship group to serve the church, the community, or whatever. And me or somebody had mentioned some of the physical needs around, home repair type needs. And I had, as a claim manager, I had seen many opportunities where there are things that need to be done that insurance just don't provide for, rot and decay and things like that. other jobs where contractors would not fool with them because it's just not worth their time. You know, they're not going to make a few dollars here. It's your property when they go down the street and make, you know, thousands or whatever. So those were left begging, and there's a lot of needs there. So with the encouragement of the men's fellowship group and the leadership there, I said, well, let's try to do something with this. And my studies at that time, my Bible studies, were in Nehemiah. It just happened to be there. And I was reading where, you know, he was inquiring about the homeland and how things were going there, and found out that, you know, the walls were torn down, the gates were burned. And one of the scriptures, I think it's chapter 2:12, said that he and some few men went in to survey the damages and then put the team together that eventually rebuilt the walls and the gates in miraculous order. But that he and some few men just kind of stuck with me. So that's where we came up with the Nehemiah's few, which the FEW is sometimes misunderstood. So I have to explain it every once in a while.
That's good, though. I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
Came right out of the word for you. It was like the Spirit of God spoke to you.
Yeah, I can't deny that at all. And we started putting the parameters together, wrote up a job order to the deacon board at that time, saying, you know, we will start this ministry, here's how it'll work, and, you know, got approval and a little budget money for it. And then we had the old paper bulletins. Now, a lot of people won't remember those, but every week, you know, you passed out that paper bulletin, and I put a little excerpt in there saying, you know, I want to start the ministry. We need some helpers, and we need some people to help, you know, so if you know of a job need or whatever. And there was a lady that came to me about a neighbor of hers, and she was telling me about her house. She had not had any electricity in about 3 or 4 of the rooms, including the living room and kitchen, for about 6 months. She had had a couple of professionals come over and look at it, and they wanted to, you know, tear out walls and big money type operations. So I said, let me check into it and see. And I worked as an electrician, worked my way through school. My major was in accounting, but I was an apprentice electrician, so I had a little bit of background there as well. Well, Patsy and I had our Thanksgiving dinner or lunch. This was in 2003, just prior to my retirement. And after lunch that day, we went over to Rebecca's house and, you know, started scrounging around trying to find some of the repairs that were needed. Found 3 or 4 different things, electrical in nature, that were needed, and didn't quite get done. So it was dark, went home. I came back the next day and finished up a couple items, and this just set Nehemiah's few for me. I told her, I said, okay, I think we've got it. Go flip the breaker. And she flipped the breaker. The lights came on for the first time in 6 months.
Wow.
And I had forgotten to take a pocket knife with me for cut a couple of wires, so I had borrowed one from her. And the door's closed, so I'm going up to knock on the door and say, here, your knife. And you could just hear her prancing back and forth, crying, thanking Jesus for the miracle in her mind, you know, getting the lights back on. And my thinking, and I think that's the way I described it in the bio, that if I can do something like that, you know, make that kind of impression on a person with a screwdriver and a pair of pliers and a borrowed knife, I guess, you know, it just kind of set the tone.
Yeah.
And just time and time again, through cards that we get from people, calls, thank yous we get from them, it just encourages you to just keep on going. You know, people are really appreciative.
How many jobs have you done so far?
I'm embarrassed.
Embarrassed?
5,500 jobs
5,500.
in 19 years. We celebrated our
19 years.
19th year Thanksgiving Day this past year.
What broad range of people? How many people have you probably had help you over that time?
It's not about how many, I know. I've kept tabs on the people there, and today it's 597 different people that we've involved in the ministry, and part of that has been targeting people. You know, if I see somebody that, you know, wants to help, you know, I try to get them involved where I can, and a lot of just tremendous people have been part of the ministry. You know, some of them now deceased through the years. Most of them church members. We've used some outside the church, but probably 98% of them church members. But I did, at the encouragement of the men's fellowship, I kept a log of the names of the people that helped me, so I can go back and tell you all 597 names. Rob's name's on that list.
I'm sure. My mom's is. I know my mom's is.
Biloxi.
But as a helper, yeah.
We went down to Biloxi during that hurricane.
Katrina, yeah.
Yeah, Katrina, yeah.
We took 3 trips down there.
I know I only went on one. I said, I'm not going back. We slept in a big old gymnasium at a church. And they told me, Harold would say, you better be the first one to sleep because you can't believe how they snore. Well, I didn't get to sleep. And by the time everyone was asleep, they were snoring on this one and they would echo in the gym. And I was like, oh my, I went out to the nursery.
Primary job? What did you paint?
I did everything. I did everything. No, Harold would have me working on a roof.
Yeah.
That was mainly, I think, roof, but we did metal roofs then. It wasn't just the old type
a lot of
shingles.
roofs down there.
Let them metal roofs down there. And those people were broke. They were broke in that area. What was the town? It wasn't Biloxi, but what was the little town?
Hattiesburg. That's where we started, yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing.
It really was. But I use people, wherever they are with their talents. I usually have at least one key person on me when we do a major project, a ramp or a deck or something like that, to make the cuts and things. But then there's a lot of needs, people just carrying materials around, keeping things supplied, holding, things while we do it. And, I got Rob trained on roofs in about 30 minutes time. You were up there and stayed up there for the week, I guess. So
it was a lot of fun.
So basically what Nehemiah's Few is it's a ministry to help people labor free, right? You don't charge for the labor, you just charge for the materials. The church,
well,
is that right?
If they have means to pay for the materials, we do ask them to do that. If they don't, a lot of times we can find resources, especially for the smaller jobs. We just provide that. If it's a larger project, like one of the major ramps or something, sometimes those are running us $2,000 worth of material, you know, and I just don't have the budget to do that. So we have to find a resource for that. But we work with several different agencies to try to help.
And you actually mentioned some of those agencies like Habitat for Humanity. You've worked with a bunch of agencies that have actually reached out to you.
Rob, we probably have had 20, 25 different agencies that have come our way and asking for help. Now, at one time when things were starting to slow down and probably year 4, 5, 6 of the ministry, I actually went and made contact with a lot of these agencies and just said, we're out here, if you can utilize our service. And there's some community efforts too, where some of them come together collectively and share, what they're able to do for the community. And I've attended several of those meetings just from the standpoint of here's what we can do, and get some calls that way as well. We've been highlighted in the paper a couple times. Winston-Salem and the Kernersville paper, and from that, you get jobs, a lot of jobs come our way. So
you've worked at the Cove, the Samaritan's Purse Properties, Christian camps. I mean, the list goes on and on here of the hundreds of hours that were put into working on poverty-stricken homes in neighboring states. I mean, all those things. It's just a blessing to see all that.
Well, from the Katrina trips, there's such an effort of energy and time and expense getting there and getting back. And by the time you get your travel in and settle down, it's time to pack up and come home. So the people that we traveled with, they want to continue that effort, but we've been trying to do it at home. So as a result, we have worked at a lot of the local area, within and around the state, the camps that you talked about. We've been to several of the Christian camps in our area, 8, 10 times there.
Well, they're always broke.
They are.
So they always need your help.
And then we were in Virginia, West Virginia several times, some of the poor communities up there. Those have been some of the more rewarding trips as well. So,
how many volunteers do you currently have serving on?
There's my core group today is probably 5 or 6 that work with most of the time. And then I've got several others we call. If I'm doing a ramp or a big project or something like that, I may have 7 or 8 on the project any given day. So I'll assemble whatever size team that we need to make it happen.
So if somebody wanted to be on Nehemiah's Few, wanted to serve and help you out,
I'm taking names, right?
You're Call in right now. But they would contact you through our website or
Well, they
just
can.
personally?
You know, I use my personal phone. Most
Okay.
of them come there, and so I'd love to, you know,
Yeah.
have anybody come forward that wants to help, and we'll try to work them into one of our projects.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be great.
Well, let me just say this because we're out of time. We just ran out of time there. But first of all, the thing I want to, you know, I actually, he probably doesn't even remember where I first met him. He wasn't at the church at the time. He had left for about a year or two, I guess.
Okay, because I wanted to
And
ask about that.
That was
You've been here
way
about
back.
25 years.
I came in '98. He wasn't attending here, and
Okay.
so one day I was over at the Y, and I was playing racquetball with this guy, and he comes in, and he comes into the locker room there, and he's showering and stuff, and he said, "Oh, I hear you're the new pastor over there." He said, "Yeah, I used to go there," and we talked a little while. Next thing you know, he's organizing racquetball meetings there. We're doing volleyball. So I'm playing volleyball with him. I'm playing racquetball with him, and he's not even a member at my church. And then he started coming back. He came back to Triad, and it became I'm telling you what, he has been a ball to
Yeah.
be around. You can't believe I'm in good health today because of him. He's had me playing tennis. He just has an incredible. He just goes.
Yeah.
I want to go just like him. I want to stay active. I want to be involved in ministry. And the main thing about his life is he's faithful.
Yeah.
He's been faithful here. It's been unbelievable, and I love it.
I was going to say, I always hear, like when you mentioned Harold Simcox, it's always tennis, building, or rook.
That's right. The rook
Yep.
parties he has.
Yeah, so that's kind of your claim to fame, I guess. Or
Yes.
your legacy is serving the Lord through sports and building and playing.
And if you
rook.
remember, just pray for his wife. You know, she's been having a tough time with her battles here. A lot of the things from the cancer treatments and back then are now coming to play in her life. And so we do want you to continue to pray for Patsy Simcox, because I know that's heavy on his heart. He did lose his son about a year ago, and so it's been a tough year for him, and God's sustained him by his grace, and he's just kept moving forward. So anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Was there anything else that we didn't ask you that you want to mention or talk about?
Been pretty thorough in covering it. You know, I've just had tremendous support all the way through. The staff, deacons have always supported the ministry. The people I've worked with, you know, they're just so encouraging, and just sweet time of fellowship
Yeah.
every time we go on a job. And some of the people have commented, you know, it's not really the work, it's the fellowship. I've had several people relate to a worship experience, you know, when we're out, you know, tearing out a floor
Yeah.
or whatever it happens to be, you know, but it's just very meaningful work. And then the response from the people itself is just precious. You know, they're just so appreciative, and I think we made a difference in a lot of
Yeah.
lives. And one thing that I've noticed, that you go in and do some work for someone, and you go back a second time maybe for something else, and they've taken the initiative to clean up and kind of rebalance their life, and you know, it's made a difference there.
Yeah.
And you know, we've had plenty of opportunities to witness and pray for people along the way. We don't try to overlook that, you know, in our ministry as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's key. That's incredible, is just making a difference. And for someone like me who's only been here a lot less than you have, you've been here a lot longer than I have, but if it wasn't for people like you kind of paving the way and building the buildings and contributing time and money and energy, I wouldn't have a place to serve or work. So, you know, that's a challenge to me, number one, is to be more involved and be more committed. And there's a lot of people, maybe a lot of new people in our church, who are just looking for a way to serve and to get involved.
Well, God would have got it done. You know,
Well, yeah,
without
you're
me.
right. God would have gotten it
It's
done,
really
but I mean,
being
He's using, because you're willing to be used, and I think that's so key and so important, is being willing to be used. And there's a lot of things we're reaping because of you guys, you charter members, and you guys, and a pastor who's been here so long, and so there's a lot of blessings that we get to reap, and I think that's important and that's encouraging. And I'm very grateful for that. And I think the other thing is that, you know, we're in a church where we are able to serve the community. So it's not all about if you're a member here or if you're tithing here. It's about, you know, we are trying to reach out and serve into the community. And that's something, too, that I'm very excited about and very grateful for. So
Well, probably 90% or more of our efforts through Nehemiah's View is for the community.
Yeah.
It's outside of the church membership. You know,
It comes an incredible outreach. I have people come in the Welcome Center all the time and say, I visit this church because somebody in this church put a wheelchair ramp in for my parent. And we wanted to come to a church like that.
Yeah.
So I have
It's just
testimonies like
fantastic.
that.
It's great,
It is. It's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. So, as we begin this new year this year, I think this is the encouragement. Let's be a herald. Let's be a part of a Nehemiah's View, and let's do what we can to encourage and help our community and our church and serve and love on people. I think that's what it's really all about.
That's right.
If you want more information about our ministry, our church, or Nehemiah's View, make sure you check out tbcnow.org. And if you enjoyed this episode or our past episodes, take a minute to rate us or review us, to like us, and to share us so that we can get our podcast out to more people. We hope you have a great week.
Thanks for joining us this week on TBC Today. We want to connect with you, so make sure to visit our website, tbcnow.org, and subscribe, rate, and review the show in iTunes, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend, and be on the lookout for our next conversation.